Hi, today we're going to talk about overcoming poverty mindset. And this is a really big byproduct or outcome from abuse and neglect. A lot of times there are so many poverties involved, or just a few poverties involved. But they lead to poverty mindset in our actual areas of our life. And when we're healing and recovering from complex PTSD, anxiety, depression, these are things that we want to be on the lookout for is types of poverty mindsets and to really resolve those and release those. And the brain has a beautiful process for this, like I always say, but it really does. And we can really use that process to move out of poverty mindset. Um, so I'm Rachel McLeod. I'm a mental health therapist and emotional wellness coach, and I specialize in helping people do the brain work for resolving symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress, recovering from childhoods of abuse and neglect, and really helping these people, all of us that have this issue, heal and thrive. And the brain has a beautiful process for this, and there is specific brain work. And this brain process gets stopped and blocked, and so it cannot help us heal these things, and all of a sudden you'll see all these symptoms of anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress show up, and you'll notice things like poverty mindset. This is unresolved material from abuse, neglect, and poverty experiences. Okay. Also, so oh, I wanted to nerd out there, but okay. So I am going to. I'm going to back up to that. Um, these experiences with poverty, when brains aren't processing traumatic experiences, brains will do overgeneralizations. They'll do a cognitive distortions. They're basically like, well, I can't process it, so we'll just make sense out of it the best we can, and we'll just overgeneralize it. So a poverty mindset everywhere. And then it will write the coding, the programming for poverty mindset to show up in these areas. Could be every area, could be just one area. Wherever this is going to show up, this is not fantastic brain work. This is the best your brain could do without processing well. Right. So the fix to that is get the brain back in there. No, let's process it this time fully. And what we'll see then is your brain will get very accurate. Okay, we had some poverty experiences, but I can see that we don't need to overgeneralize this. This is how it was impacting us. This is how it's impacting us. This is where we can have all these other things. Like it's the same thing as being stuck in a cloud in the sky and all you see is cloud, and then you get out and you're like, oh, the sky is blue. Or if you're here in the Pacific Northwest, it looks like there's only a white sky with plenty of clouds, but you go on a plane trip, you get past there, it's blue, right? The reality is there's a blue sky out there. But if we can't process the trauma, we can never get out of the cloud. And so it hangs around us, and our brain is over generalizing poverty mindset in places it should not be. It's not accurate. So we just want to walk the brain through understanding this. We don't want to work at this from a conscious cognitive place because it's not a logic or reasoning problem that we're having. We're not Poverty mindset is not you're not thinking the right way. It has to do with unresolved emotional distress, unresolved experiences, and the limiting beliefs that your brain actually believes. So if we walk your brain through the process of resolving those things, uh, it gets it. It gets on the same page, and the next thing you know, your body and your mind can really work together to create some beautiful, thriving experiences. Okay, but I need to say a couple more things here. So we'll dive in at this point. Um, so poverty mindset. So I always look at this. I'm looking at this very therapeutically. I'm looking at this. How do I help people recover? And so I'm evaluating, I'm strategizing, and then we are moving the needle. We're doing the work. We're doing the brain work. We're implementing the plan. And so we're gonna. That's what. So poverty mindset is a way of evaluating for me, and it's one of the impacts of abuse and neglect. And there isn't a poverty. There is a problem. Okay, there is a poverty involved with abuse or neglect. Okay, so let me show you. I'm going to show you how I evaluate this, and um, Okay. I also, I like to look at things on spectrums because it's easy to see that you want to move the needle to the healthy corner, and that it's not all or nothing. We will be somewhere on the spectrum, and we need to identify where we're at accurately, right? If our brain is if we're going to say, oh, it's all poverty mindset, then we're not going to be as accurate as if we're saying, no, it's right here. And so let me tell you, I use the term, I like the opposites here. Here, the opposite of poverty is wealth, but I don't like wealth as much. I don't feel like it's not as juicy enough for me, or it doesn't do it for me. So I go on poverty and abundance. So this is the scale I'm working with. Okay. And I want to find where somebody is on it. Are they way over here? Sometimes they're over here. Are they over here? Are they here? Are they here? Um, there's obviously different, like a lot farther to go if you're on this side of the spectrum. But even if you're over here, this is where we're pimping out the inner world. This is where we're putting rims on the car. This is where we're putting the LED lights. Anyway, we're decorating. Okay. Um, so this is where we're doing all that fun stuff. This is where we're really healing and recovering. And so, but wherever you're at on this thing, there is a bit of healing and recovering over here. It's just more nuanced, more fine details. Over on this side, there's a lot bigger projects. Okay. That doesn't mean that they're going to take a ton of time to resolve. When we're resolving things and we're working with the right part of the brain, the brain process, when we get that up and running, the brain will resolve these things very quickly. So we can move this needle in like 5, 10, 20-minute segments. This is not a ton of time. It's going to take forever. That's a survival system thought process. When the mind body system's working together well, it's really, really fast and really effective, and it covers tons of territory. It's wonderful. Anyway, I'm a fan of the brain, so I'm going to keep referring to this, but so let me keep holding it. I like to break down poverties into, like, I want to see this expanded beyond financial. Obviously financial poverty, right? But we also have relational poverty. We have emotional poverty. We have mental poverty. If you grew up in a household where there was emotional wellness, there's a poverty of emotional wellness or emotional intelligence, you're going to have some specific side effects. If you grew up in a family where there was not where there was a mental poverty, where people just mentally were not well, the thoughts were not there. There was low intellect. There was a lot of distorted thinking. That you're going to notice a mental poverty here. These poverties shape our experience and our expectation of what we're going to see, and they really shape our perspective and our realities. If we change these, if we get the brain and the mind body system to change these, our realities change, our perceptions change, and it's so fascinating and wonderful. Um, and I like to give people an experience with this. You're going to hear me yak about it for a little bit. There's nothing like actually experiencing your brain shift your reality in front of your eyes. And this is the work I walk people through and I guide people to do, either working one-on-one with me in therapy, coaching, or even in my online program. This is what I'm helping people do, work with this part of the brain. And they will really watch their realities shift in front of them. And then some of them email me all about it and I get to geek out with them. Anyway, or if I'm working one-on-one, we get to geek together. But this is a powerful way to change our realities. I'm going to talk about that in a second. So we can have relational poverty. We're isolated. We just don't have, family systems can have relational poverty. They're isolated. They're not getting along well with the outside world. There are no outside connections. That's a poverty in relationships. There's social poverty. There is time poverty. There's a poverty of support, where you may have gone through your childhood and you just didn't get enough support. That is going to impact you tremendously. You will have a harder time taking risks and going out and living your dreams because there's just not enough support to hold you up to do it. And so a lot of my um, brilliant clients that for all intents and purposes should be totally phenomenally wealthy, healthy, and successful, they're not. And it's often they have their nervous system is full of this the conditioning from the poverty of support. Um, there can be a poverty of safety. We're getting more into the nooks and cranny. Safety, stability, and security for me are foundational. I'm always assessing those. And so once we get into poverty of safety, absolutely, we need to move. We're in mental health. We are moving this over here. We need the mind body system to not keep generating patterns of safety povertyness. It's like it's stuck in the nervous system. The mind body system, the subconscious mind will continue recreating this. We want the subconscious mind to create an abundance, and the mind body system and subconscious mind to create an abundance of safety. The perception being safety, 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 that just generates from you. When you have a safe childhood where you are tuned to and supported, this is automatically put into your nervous system. When I'm working with people recovering from childhoods where that was not the case, where there was a poverty of safety, poverty, we have to put that into the nervous system now. We have to pull out the unsafety everywhere programming and the expectations and beliefs, and we have to start putting in that there's an abundance of safety for me into the nervous system. And the mind body system is designed to do this. It just hasn't been done yet, so we're going to do it now. Okay. There's also poverty, self-esteem poverty. If your self-esteem is low, or you grew up with people who had a poverty of self-esteem, you're going to be over here, and we're working to move this needle over here. Now, success is not when we get over here. Success is when we get into a place that's functional, where our brain is like, oh, I can really cook from here. I can really help us reach our goals and dreams. I can expand. I can connect. I feel great. I feel like sky's the limit. This will happen over and over and over again in someone's healing journey, in someone's life journey, where they'll feel like they have a poverty of finances, right? And so we want to shift that over here so that their mind body system is creating abundance. Maybe we're doing great and we're feeling the abundance of safety, but then life grows or new things are added. Maybe we have a baby this year, and all of a sudden we're just feeling like we're not safe. We're not safe. And so we need to, while we have this new situation, we need to get the brain to come back over here and, hey, we're creating abundance in this new situation. And you can support and walk your nervous system to do that for you. That's what it's supposed to be doing. It's supposed to help you create an abundance of health, safety, support, connections, relationships, resources, ideas. My little list of poverties and abundances, it can be broken up into everything. Patience, an abundance of patience. There can be patience poverties. There can be creative poverties where I have a poverty of creativeness going on. That's a real thing. We need to move it to abundance. That's a brain process, and we can walk the brain through this over and over again. This is nice to have as an assessment tool in the back of your mind because, oh, my brain did two things at once. Okay. It's nice to have an assessment tool. Yes, because the idea is, if you can name it, you can tame it. Once you can name it, we're kind of like, it's like the self is like this, right? We want to open the self up and explore it. And then we want we're taking some snapshots for the brain up there. And we're looking at it. And because we're looking at it, the brain is saying, ooh, look at that, and look at this. Oh, that doesn't match here, and look at this, look at this, look at this. Oh, and the brain's popping around here having an experience with it. We're also, if you have a history of processing challenges, as evidenced by anxiety, depression, and traumatic stress symptoms running all over the place, we're also going to use an intervention. We're going to really talk to your survival system here, so that, because when people with histories of people with unresolved emotional distress, traumatic experiences, there's a lot of pain in the inner world. And when we open it up to look at this, the pain neurons just start flashing, 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 and this will send us into a survival state, and we will actually not gain a dang thing from looking at the inner world. And we'll actually learn it's dangerous to look in there. Don't go, right? And we're not risking that. We don't need that in our life. When we open up and look, because we're going to expect pain and we're going to expect the healing brain process malfunctions in the presence of pain. So we already know that. So when we open up to look, we're going to run into some pain. And we're going to start supporting the brain with the pain. We're going to send a ton of safety signals to your survival system while you're looking at your inner world. So we're going to use an intervention that we already know works. We're not going to do this. If you don't have an intervention that works, that your brain responds to by shifting you out of survival mode, because there's enough safety signals that, oh, we can let the pain process this time because there's enough safety. If you don't have an intervention like that, I'm not doing this with you. Don't do this. You need to be able to support your survival system to relax, calm down, stand down, and let the whole brain work on this. You do not need to freak out and send us into survival mode. We're safe, right? And it's so wonderful. It will respond instantly when you get the right intervention on. So you can use an intervention for 30 seconds while you're looking at this for 30 seconds and you're using intervention, and your brain actually has the support to look at it and actually process pain. Therefore, when it goes back together, it's rewiring. It's coming back together more authentic. It's like taking all the pain out of there in the middle. And so you'll open it again and there's less pain. I didn't mean to do this thing, but I'm going to totally nerd while I'm here. This is how we make the inner world a safe place again. This is lots of people, especially avoidants, are not going in here. Anxious people are going in the inner world. They're looking around, but they're getting ping-ponged all around, and they're getting spiraled out, and they're going spirals everywhere. And it's actually, but they can't stop looking in the inner world. The avoidance, we can stop looking in the inner world. We sure can. I'm just not going in there. How about that? But we're actually reclaiming the inner world by opening it while using interventions and then letting it close. Then our survival system's like, oh, we survived that. Who knew? You can go in there and come back out, right? We can get dysregulated and then get regulated again. Okay, that's not what we're talking about. I made some videos about that recently. You can watch it, how this regulation process it amplifies executive functioning, initiates rewiring. There's automatic, awesome brain functions that happen while you're regulated. When your brain is getting those safety signals and you're looking at tough stuff, that's tough stuff heals, changes, and resolves. And it seems like magic. It's not. It's healthy brain function. It's wonderful. Okay, so I do want to say this. I am making this video. I made this video earlier than I would have, because it's really, this is an evaluation tool I have used unconsciously, and it's becoming more and more conscious to me. And so I have a ton of ideas with it, and I've been using this effectively for a while, but I've never had to explain it. And one of my one-on-one coaching clients, we were discussing it back and forth, and she was like, "Can you tell me more?" And I was like, "Go." I've never really explained this to anybody, and I've never heard it explained to me. So you're getting all these thoughts from Rachel, because this is a really empowering way to look at things, and it's very functional. Also, and we're not using this as, oh, it's shame on me, I'm so poverty. Absolutely not. This is the impact of poverty. This is what's going to happen when you have neglect. This is what's going to happen. Something like this happened if you were abused. Your abuser was lacking in mental health. There's mental poverty. They were not having an abundance of mental health here. You had this experience with poverty, and so it needs to complete, it needs to finish, because it happened because we ate the sandwich. We have to finish digesting the sandwich and drop it off, same thing with experiences. If we have an experience, our mind body system has to metabolize it to let it go and move on and gain the nutrients from it. There are nutrients in every experience, even if it's highly traumatic, the most traumatic thing that ever could have happened. There are vitamins and minerals in there your brain is going to take and use to make your health and wellness. I see it happen 100% of the time, and it is a trip. I in the beginning of this work, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if that we can heal this. And then it's these people are like, I wouldn't regret it. I made it. Their self-esteem is awesome, on point, accurate, and their brain integrated it. And not only did their brain integrate that trauma, it used it to build their self-esteem, their confidence, their love, their capacity, their connection, their depth, their security. Brains take their job very seriously, people. And brains want this. They're trying to create this all the time. If it's not, it's because it can't. And that's why we're jumping in and we're supporting it, because this is not what we're designed to be like. This right here, where this poverty mindset is covering our experience, it's because we actually can't go through the process of making this. If we're stuck in poverty experiences, I'm going to say something to that. This is a real challenge. It is dealing with trauma is much different than dealing with post-traumatic stress. Post-traumatic stress, gone. When we are in a traumatic situation, there's so much processing required. This is not a 2 to 6 month journey. This is you keep processing and keep your processor open as much as you can while you're in a trauma. So if you're in financial stress right now, I encourage you to use a ton of interventions, because trauma, we're going to see symptoms of anxiety, depression, traumatic stress. The brain's trying to understand what's going on. It's like moving a mile a minute to keep you alive. That's actually how it's supposed to work. We don't stop that. We support that. Okay, so but what happens here when the poverty experience is over, which is what many people who are the first family in their generational line to be kind to their children, to be empathetic to their children, they're still going to be dealing with this. It's not happening anymore, but it feels like it is. The first generation to have financial wealth, right? They're over there. Their children probably are learning this, but this is still in the nervous system often. Right. And so we want to pull that into, we want to help the mind body system completely process this, finish it, and then start creating abundance, which it will do on its own. And we can help with that. We can guide it. There's exercises. But basically, if we heal, this is a sign that things need to be healed. This is a sign that the brain has enough processing done that it can create abundance and abundance realities. Okay. So, so what happens with this is these are not things that you're responsible. These are not your fault. These are your responsibility to process out, to help your brain process out into, so your brain can do its phenomenal work for you of creating health and abundance and thriving. Okay, these are not markers to shame yourself over. Gosh, why can't I stop thinking in poverty mindset? No, we're not going to use poverty mindset to abuse ourselves further. We're not going to get health by abuse. So, but we can use this as just an understanding, where am I at on the map? And then, okay, how do I move the needle? How do I move more towards health and wellness? And what we're going to look at is we're going to look at our experiences. We're going to look at our beliefs. We're going to look at our perspectives. And those things create our perceptions. And then from there, our brain is creating our reality. So we can really change our reality by changing our beliefs, processing our experiences, and really those two things then impact the perspectives and the subconscious programming. So we have a lot of power with how we are perceiving the world, and if we're perceiving poverty experiences, if we're perceiving poverty, or if we're perceiving abundance. And it is a perception thing. You can take two people, you can show them the same scene, you can put them in the same house, you can put them in the same scenario. One will see abundance and opportunity and excitement, and the other one will see dread, fear, terror, and poverty. Okay, this is a perception thing. And there's a lot of talk about be delusional. Yes, in a way, but not really. I don't advocate that. I think that's a mind trick that would work, but it would create a separation between your mindset and your heart set, your belief set, your nervous system set, and your programming set. And that will eventually create a crash in the system, a crisis. I don't advocate for that. I like the parts of you to come together and move together. Don't let your mind leave your body and think you're going to be okay. You're not. That's not how it's going to work. So some of these mindset exercises do that, and I don't recommend it, especially if you've got complex PTSD. anxiety disorder or depression disorder. It's so much better to start at the foundation and get your brain processing. Turn on that executive functioning, support it, hold it on, you know, with these interventions. So, okay, some of the beliefs that we're going to come out of this is with poverty mindset. There's a big belief that there's not enough. There's not enough. There's not enough support. There's not enough love. There's not enough connection. There's not enough there's not enough self-esteem. There's not enough time. There's not enough emotional health. I can't take risks because there's not enough, right? I can't try new things because there's not enough. I have to play it safe because there's not enough. I need to hoard all of my belongings because I need to get all the toilet paper because there's not enough, right? There's big themes of not enough. And I'm not talking about stuff you can logically understand. I'm talking about things that you feel, things that become drivers that drive you. And the next thing you know, you're saving all the jars. That was me. Next thing you know, you're saving all the hair products. You know, next thing you know, you're saving pounds and pounds of flour, rice, right? Not we're talking different between being prepared and being in poverty mindset, right? Being prepared is going to amplify your life. Poverty mindset is going to deplete you because you're not running from a whole brain state. You're running from survival mode. That part does not know how to thrive, does not know how to do math, does not know how to understand, hey, we have enough. That part of the brain doesn't do that. So we don't want to be stuck in that part of the brain. We want to be shifting ourselves into the whole brain state so that the parts of ourselves that understand time and understand math and can calculate and be intelligent can help us with our choices and our behaviors. Right. And that's a brain state thing. In lots of my videos, I'm talking about how to shift that. I'm going to avoid that right here so we can keep going down this lane. But manually shifting this is really important, especially when you have histories of complex PTSD, anxiety, and depression. Okay. Another big belief is I can't afford it. I can't afford to be. I can't afford it. I can't afford another hurt. I can't afford to fall in love again. I can't afford to take this action that's going to help me. I can't afford to rest. I can't afford to play. I can't afford to connect right now. I can't afford to take time to attune to you. I can't afford. Right? Or I can't afford to be without boundaries. I can't afford to be mentally ill today. I can't afford to be, and we can afford that. All of us many of us are affording that, right? This is not true. You can't afford to be any of these things, and it's actually safe to be them occasionally, right? Poverty mindset says, no, I can't afford it. I'm not okay right now. I'm having a panic attack. Let's panic more, right? I can't afford to be here. A mind that has an abundance of mental and emotional health is going to say, oh, I'm having an emotional challenge right now. Okay, it's okay. I can afford this. We'll wait this out. That brain's going to recover faster in minutes, right? Because there's an abundance of emotional health. There's an abundance of mental health. There's an abundance of support. I can support myself through this. Absolutely. This is a lot of the reasons why I'm teaching people the strategies and the skills, because I want them to have this confidence in themselves. I want them to have experience with this. I want to move the needle on their emotional skill set. That they have a poverty of self-support. They have a poverty of skills. I'm saying this backwards. They have an abundance of self-support, an abundance of confidence here, abundance of skills. I want them to be able to pull from a deep well of, I have it. There's enough. There's enough time right here for my brain to finish this panic attack. There's enough time right here. And we want to shift these things before reality shifts. And your brain can do this. You cannot do this. Your brain can do this. Your mind-body system can do this. The mind-body system is an illusion creator. And safety is absolutely an illusion here. Unsafety is absolutely an illusion. And your brain we want it to make safety illusion accurately, right? Sometimes we're in abusive situations and our brain is like, oh, we're so safe. It's like home, right? That's not what I'm talking about, but that is an example of exactly what I'm talking about. Your brain can make the illusion of safety anywhere, right? So when we want your brain to be making this actively and effectively and in a healthy way. and to be including reality, not delusions in it. And that will happen all as the brain is processing it in a whole brain state. It knows how to do this. And when we support it with safety signaling, the brain is then going to make more safety. Very cool. This is awesome when you have a mental poverty for opening your mail, right? You can go right there and support yourself with it to help your brain create the illusion of safety because opening your mail is safe, right? Even if there are bills in there. And if you're in a conversation with your spouse and you're feeling unsafe, but you know that you are safe, but you're being triggered because they said the phrase that your father said, and it wasn't safe then, and now your brain's freaking out, you can support your brain to help it understand we're safe now, right? By sending those safety signals, you're supporting your brain to create safety now and to evaluate, are we safe or are we not safe? The survival system will do no evaluating, it will just react, we're not safe. Um, there's some other ideas here that I'll be secure when I have an abundance of time. I'll be safe when I this is a poverty mindset thing, and this is what makes people experiencing poverty really susceptible to get rich quick schemes. And to this is why we want give me a pill to make it better. You know, I'm not against medication for mental health, but that is not a wellness scheme. That's a stabilization situation. But and it's like, or hey, I want to win the lottery. We can't afford to do the time and work to get in there and do the foundational reconstruction to create lasting health and wealth that will thrive. Like bamboo, you put it in the ground and you water it, and you don't see anything, but you keep watering it. It's building this whole inner network, and you're like, and everyone's like, "What are you even doing? You're not even doing anything." Oh my gosh, you're the bamboo. This bamboo, and the next thing you know, 5 years later, it sprouts up and it's 100 feet tall. I don't know how tall it gets, but it's extremely. A lot happens in 1 year because you actually did the root work. But in poverty, we don't have time for that, right? In poverty, we don't have time to do the marriage therapy and have the conversations and change the tone and to change the way we're saying it. Uh, um, we don't have time to regulate our nervous system. I need this to change now. You know, this is some of that. This is how poverty mindset shows up. And I'm running out of time. I can't do it. I can't slow down and do it right because I just need to do something, right? It's also, there's a lot of, in poverty mindset, there's a lot of having to earn what you have. And there's ideas that the world is not friendly toward me. The world is antagonistic to me. And this all comes from having experiences in childhood that taught you this, or being raised by somebody whose experiences taught them this, because you're learning it through the mirroring neurons. You might not even know why you have poverty mindset. And guess what? You don't even need to figure it out. All you got to do actually is support your brain to, when you're feeling that or you're in awareness of the poverty mindset, you just support your brain to shift into a processing state. And all of a sudden it's working through. It's like, oh, we don't need that. Oh, that was a misconception. Oh, no, this is not right. This is right over here. It's getting accurate. It's rewiring to accuracy. We don't need to know all of this stuff. We just need to help the brain process it. The mind-body system already knows. Hello. There is a lot more going on in the mind-body system that is precognitive and non-cognitive, that if you get that stuff processed, you still get the win of mental health and wellness. It slows us down tremendously to be trying to understand things. I can't tell you that enough. I can't. Rewind this and say it again, like watch me say it again like 7 times. This is one of the biggest challenges my smart clients, my clients with high intellects have, is that it takes them a lot longer to heal because they're so dependent and reliant on their thinking center. This part of their brain does not have a problem. It's awesome. So we need to climb down to the parts of the nervous system in the body and the subconscious mind that do have the problem, hang out with them for a while and let them process. Right? But okay. Okay, so what we want to do with poverty, the process for resolving poverty mindset is acknowledge. If you can find it, if you can acknowledge it, if you can name it, you can tame it, right? But acknowledge it, then what we're going to do is we're going to process it and we're going to finish it. We're going to do process till it's finished. You know that I had this one, I had a time poverty, and I find it every once in a while places. And it was something that was driving several of my compulsions, OCD, all those guys. And it was, I'm not going to make it in time. I'm not going to make it in time. What I did was I started using an intervention. I think I put my EMDR music on, and I started writing out this compulsion. And I started paying attention to how my breathing was. I could feel it. I could feel it. And then my brain started showing me some images and some stuff. And I just paid attention. I was paying attention. I just kept writing. I'm not going to get there in time. I'm not going to get there in time. My brain told me this elaborate story that may or may not have ever happened in the history of humanity. And I'm writing. And I could just feel this intense, it was like, it just was like, yes, this is how I feel. And I just kept with it. I kept hanging with it. And then it just started getting smaller and then left. And I couldn't find it anymore. And then that compulsion I was doing, gone, done. Because what was driving it wasn't there anymore. And now that disturbance in my field, that poverty that was there, I mean, my people have not had time. And so was pulled out of my nervous system at a high level. I went back and I found it again somewhere else. It was lighter. So I resolved that one too. And after a while I was hunting for it. I was like, where are you at? Where are you at? I'm not going to get there in time. And I haven't heard from it. And guess what? I'm slower. My mind started being more empty and quiet and silent. And I was like, where's all the chatter? This is weird. I'm alone in my brain. Like it was really unnerving how much shifting that created in my inner world by resolving that time poverty. And my executive functioning around time increased. I have ways to go with that one. But I made a huge, I understood I had some great insights and epiphanies after that. And I'm a little more on time. Who knew? Okay. So, but that's the process. We want that acknowledgement. We want to acknowledge, we want to process and finish. We do not want to suppress. We do not want to avoid. We're acknowledging, we're not avoiding. But if you know what you're avoiding, you're acknowledging it through, I'm acknowledging that I'm avoiding this issue. That's a great enough position to start processing. Your brain knows exactly what you're working on. Those are some of the tricks to make things more processable. And there's a lot more like that. We want to shift the beliefs to there is enough. If you have a history of complex PTSD, you might want to jump in right here, but I do not, unless you've been processing for a while. To start using positive affirmations is asking your brain to process a ton of things. If you've got unresolved material, unresolved pain, unresolved trauma, unresolved emotional wounds in your inner world, if you start with a positive, you are asking your brain to do a ton of processing when at a time when your processor might not be very good at processing things. I do not recommend that. I recommend starting with the negative. I recommend starting to work on there's not enough. There's not enough. There's not enough. This keeps you specific on one thing to process as opposed to the other one. Your brain's like, oh, I'd love to, but this, and this. So sorry, I can't. So now it's asking you to process all these 6 things. So better to start over here in the negative where you can work on one thing and get that processed, right? And after a while, you're like, oh, you can feel that it's time to go to the positive, and you can go over there, and there's so much less processing work, and your brain is so much better at processing. So positive affirmations, and when you're early in your journey of complex PTSD recovery, can really crash your system and make things worse for you. You don't need that. You do not need that. You need to find the right where your brain can process and be winning all the time. We don't want to put it up against things it can't process. It can't win. It's had enough of that. It's had enough of, oh, I can't. It's had enough. We want to set it up for success and victory over and over and over again. And if we got to break things down to the tiny to get it a win, we're going to, because that is starting a new pattern. And brains love that. And they're like, ooh. And then you'll be able to do more and more and more. Be where you are. right? If you're in poverty mindset, be there. That is your most powerful place for healing. And if you can be there, you're gonna be out of there faster than you can imagine. It's when we resist being there, and there's a ton of resistance, a ton of struggle, a ton of I don't want to be here, and that's okay. Sometimes that's where we have to work out. I don't want to be in this poverty state. I want to be in abundance. Right? That's distress that needs to get processed, and it's just fine. There's nothing wrong with that because we got to be where we are. If the solutions don't help you where you actually are, if you actually have to be here before you can be there, before you can get the benefit, this is not your solution. You have to be where you are. The solutions have to meet you where you're at. Exactly where you're at with all the brain trash, with all the emotional poverty. They have to meet you right there. Okay, so yeah, so this looks like a very big thing. But I don't talk to clients about it because brains naturally resolve it. And so I don't really need to make a big deal out of this. It's something that resolves right away. But there are people that this is exactly where they're at in their journey, and they want to be moving from poverty to abundance. And so it's a really great way of looking at things. It can really guide you to do a ton of healing work. In my program, Inner World Transformation, my very first my very first exercise is one where you plug your specific symptoms in there, and then it shows you how to open them up and tear them into little bitty pieces that your brain can process. You can really create your own healing strategies and healing roadmaps with this. And so one could do this with poverty mindset and really open it up and tackle poverty mindset and be very thorough. I'm all about that thorough. We're going to find it over here when you wake up in the morning, when you're at work, when you're in your car. Like, let's go. Where are you at? And we're going to grab it and throw it through the processor, wherever it is, and enough so that your brain can get enough data around it to shift the programming so that it creates lasting change and health and wellness. So having said that, what I encourage you to do at this point is I want to invite you to try my 3 favorite interventions for this type of work. These interventions are very different. They are interventions that support the survival system. They're not talk strategies. They help you manually support your survival system to switch out of survival mode and into processing, or you're going to work on something painful, so you're going to just hold it there so that your mind body system stays in a whole brain state instead of shutting down to survival mode. So there are interventions for this. There are tons. I have 3 favorite that I use almost exclusively, and that I give my clients so that they can have a way of working with their brain and being in the driver's seat of their healing journey. So this is a free intervention training. It's called Interventions for Inner World Transformation. The training to that is in the description. If you find an intervention that works for you, like I had somebody in my Instagram say, oh my gosh, I tried this once and I already feel better. And that's exactly what we should see. If you try the first intervention and you don't really feel anything, go to the next one. If you don't feel anything, there's instructions in in the video about this. You need a working intervention. If it doesn't work for you, get a different one. And so in that video, in that training, I show you what to look for, what you should see. Because once your brain's in that processing state, you're going to see some very specific things show up. If those things are showing up, it works. Okay, so I show you how to evaluate that. Also, if you really like this and you want to follow my journey for resolving these things, my process that I've developed, that's in my program, Inner World Transformation. It's designed to help people resolve symptoms of anxiety, depression, traumatic stress, to resolve disorders, also tackle major life issues like reactivity while they're parenting, over shopping, overspending, withdrawal, isolation, life things like that, or poverty mindsets. Absolutely can be resolved with this program. So, and you can use it over and over again for the rest of your life, which I encourage you to do anyway, because everywhere you take your brain is going to eventually need some support. And I'd love for you to be equipped with that. Even though you might get support from other people, you're going to be with yourself the most. So I want you to be the most skillful with your inner world. So, yeah. Okay, wonderful connecting. I encourage you to follow, like, share, some of my videos, like and subscribe to me on YouTube and here on Facebook, and I will see you all later.